Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ask Adam. Ask is the acronym for Always Seek Knowledge. Not to specifically ask me a question, but I hope this and each episode allows you to ask yourself the questions and allow you to begin seeking knowledge in something that, well, you're interested in and understanding a little bit more about life so that you, well, can begin to see patterns so that you can begin to see your life unfold, allowing you to make decisions at, well, a relatively faster pace than normal or what you're currently acting in. And I will share with you that this, well, inevitably can make your life a whole lot better, certainly more improved. Again, I'm a firm believer that life is happening for us, not to us. And the sooner you see that and see the predictability a little bit of your life, although keeping it very adventurous, you will start to make, well, choices a little faster. Which brings us to today's topic: decision speed, choosing faster, living better. See, clarity doesn't come from overthinking, it comes from choosing. So let's get started. Indecision is certainly the thief of the moment. The longer you wait to choose, the more energy you waste. And managing the wait, well, that's where we can get distracted. And that's where, well, we cannot get things done that we need to get done. And we're certainly not going to move forward. See, many people think more time equals a better decision. But in life, as well as with business, slow decisions are often fear in disguise. Now, let me be clear: speed doesn't mean rushing, it means trusting, seeing the patterns, knowing a little bit more about what your future in lies and the direction that you want your future to end up in, specifically meaning yourself, your career. Knowing what you want allows you to make that decision far quicker than just having the vague possibility of something occurring in your life. See, there was a time in my life where I took time to think about things and tried to be strategic, thinking that ruminating on something would, well, give me the answer, make it that much clearer, or even to give me the opportunity to say it was well thought out. When honestly, acting sooner could have been far more beneficial for me to a certain degree. How many of you can look back at maybe a decision that took you longer than it should have in life? And can you, well, not to go back into the past too much, but we do learn from our lessons where that overthinking created missed opportunities in your life, where you waited too long or were indecisive for something and, well, kind of watched your future self sail off into the future without you. And then when you finally decided, well, that ship had already sailed. And then you found yourself maybe starting over again, starting from a different place, maybe having to reinvent yourself. See, this is where a fast decision would help with your momentum, with getting somewhere. Where is it that you want to be in the next 3, 5, and 10 years? You know, it's not that far away. And making decisions today is certainly going to start to frame your future. What does the future look like for you? What is it something that you would like to do? Something that you've been thinking about doing? What's that thing that keeps bugging you when you wake up in the morning, start your day, and you keep thinking, I could do this or I should do that? What is that one thing? That's probably your gut telling you this is something you should be doing. I don't believe that things happen randomly. And I am a firm believer that, well, we're guided in a certain way, that when the time is right, we should be confident in our decisions to make those decisions within a reasonable period of time. Now, I'm not saying go out and do crazy things and then say, well, Adam said just go out and give it a try. No, I'm saying with thoughtful decision making, move forward. Don't think about it too much. Don't wait for all your ducks to get in a row, because then, quite frankly, you're going to find out you don't even have any ducks. And then you will have spent even more time not going and doing what it is you were meant to do, what you wanted to do. I don't necessarily want to put this measuring tool on it, but what if that one thing was the key to your happiness if you're currently unhappy? What if the one thing that you are thinking you should give a try is what would catapult your life into a completely different direction? Open doors and networking opportunities that you didn't experience up until this moment. And all of a sudden, that was the door that took you places. You don't know unless you make that decision. And quite frankly, if you've got that gut feeling, most likely true. So don't overthink it. And don't ever consider that your gut is wrong. Consider how you can best align with your gut and how you can make the most educated decision by being prepared. In this episode, I promise you will learn why fast decision makers succeed more often, how to build decision making confidence, and the 5 tools to choose with clarity and speed. Part 1: Why slow decisions drain you. Mental fatigue. How many of us out here have experienced mental fatigue? How many people currently have mental fatigue? Some of this is from you just holding options too long, trying to juggle all of these things in your mind. Like, should I do this? Should I do that? When should I do this? How should I do it? When's the best time to do it? Should I wait for a season? Should I wait until the beginning of the year? Make a resolution and then promise myself I'm going to move forward, only to get distracted and fatigued because everything else got in the way. This can happen from holding our options too long. And it's not necessarily making multiple decisions at the same time. You can make one decision a week, one decision a month. Spread them out. Make a decision and know where it's going to play and let it play out. And then from that point, make another decision, knowing how it's going to play to a certain degree. Again, and this is from education. This is from knowledge that I say you should seek, always seeking knowledge, is to understand a little bit about what it is that you're looking to do and the path that you're forging forward. I always recommend to find that mentor or coach, someone who's a few steps ahead of you or even at the end of the road. They will share with you what you can expect so you know where to look for the pitfalls and not find them by accident. Because this slow decision, well, the decisioning creates confusion. And these confusions, well, they begin to loop, right? And then you go, well, I just don't know about this, and I just don't know about this, and I just don't. And then before you know it, you've created self-doubt automatically, just for you, wrapped up self-doubt in a box with a pretty bow. And this is no way to make decisions either. And what occurs is the delay in action. This is followed by delay in results, which inevitably is a delay in feedback. And guess what? You're still at square one. You can course correct a decision, but you can't improve a decision you never made. So begin today to avoid that mental fatigue, avoid the confusion loops by having action and start developing results and giving yourself feedback so that you know that you're best aligned. You can always make adjustments along the way, but how do you know what to adjust if you're not already doing something? You're not already in action. So you can see why, well, in part one, this can kind of hold you back where you don't even get started. So I want to share with you 5 tools to boost your decision speed. And that takes us right into part two. I like the 80% rule. If you're 80% sure, remember the gut feeling I mentioned earlier? If you're really sure, this is in your heart of hearts and it feels comfortable, you don't have that weird feeling inside. And I'm not talking nerves, I'm talking the unsettling feeling of this isn't right. This isn't right for me. This doesn't align with me. This goes against my values, stuff like that. But you're 80% sure, move. Move in that direction. And in that action, you're going to begin to collect data. And like I said, from that data, you can begin to see results. And then you can begin to give yourself or others the feedback based on that data. The second step is give yourself a timeline. Make it end of the day, middle of the day. Before I go to bed, I'm going to do this. Before I leave from work, I'm going to do this. And give it a time. Give it a future. Because decisions love deadlines. Remember, you want to make these in a timely fashion. So don't say I'm going to do it next week or next month or next year. Yeah, that's way too far down the road. Maybe tomorrow would be the far stretch, and that would give you maybe that moment to, as they say, sleep on it, to think about it, to decide whether you feel ultimately comfortable. Maybe you're at 60% and you want to get to 80. And if you slept on it or if you thought about it, just one more moment, but make that decision at that time that you've designated to do so. I call that a time box. And that way you know it's time to make that decision and you move on. The third tool that I find helpful is filter by values. I know it was in another episode, and maybe we should refresh a little bit here. But one of the first things that you want to start discovering, and I always recommend journaling, is have your top 3 values and or goals in life. I like to also add my 5 principles, which are kind of the 5 core things that I base decisions on. Every decision, whether it's buying a piece of property or buying a depreciating asset, or whether it's a relationship or whatever, investing into a new company, whatever that is, I go back to my 5 principles. And does it align with me? So does it align with your top 3 values? Is it something that is something you believe in? Is it something you can live with? I'm not sure what your values are, but again, in journaling, you will discover your 3 values and keep those, noted somewhere. that you can always go back to. These are values that aren't going to change much. They're pretty foundational. Your goals, well, they're going to alter a little bit, still somewhat foundational. But make sure that they align. This will help filter based on your values. So you may find you could already put one to the front of the line just because it aligns with your values better, and make a decision on that matter, well, somewhat immediate. And the others, well, not right away, but certainly give yourself a timeline. Again, put it in a time box and say, we'll get to this next quarter. But make a decision on something today. This leads us into number 4, which is basically default to simplicity. The simple path is usually the clearest, not too complex. And if it has you kind of circumventing and going around and doing this and doing that in order to get to your ultimate goal, well, maybe it doesn't align with you. And that's where I recommend seeking out a coach or a mentor to maybe let you know that certain things aren't necessary. We can overcomplicate things by thinking everyone did everything they had to do to become something and to do something, when some may only have used 2 things, some may have used 4 things. Rarely would anybody use all 5 of the tools in the toolbox. Some might have to. But I can assure you that those that used all 5 tools knew what each tool was utilized for and used it extraordinarily well. When sometimes, well, like a hammer, you can break and shape things with a hammer. You can also put things together with a hammer. So see how a tool can have a multi-purpose? Same thing. If you need all 5 tools, well, there's a certain uniqueness. Some people can utilize 2, and through multitasking, use one tool for several of their options. And tools, I mean, specifically, maybe it's your personality that allows you to accelerate towards your goals because, well, people just like you. They're gravitated to you. That's what I mean by tool. Maybe it's your skills. Maybe you're quick with numbers and spreadsheets and analyzing. And maybe it's not necessarily your personality, but that you're quick with math, quick on your feet. You can use that tool. But default to simplicity and utilize kind of, think minimalist and minimize what it is that you specifically need to do in order to take this step. And that way you're not overwhelmed with having to do 3 to 5 things all at once. The simplest path is, well, getting started. And then the next simplest path is doing this and doing that, not doing it at the same time necessarily. And that's usually the clearest. That's going to give you the best results. And again, you go back to your data, see the results, give yourself feedback. Was it well? What didn't go well? Make those adjustments and keep continuing. Don't get pushed down by the idea of complexity. Keep it simple. It'll always be clear. Step 5, use a decision anchor. Like I said, I use principles as my anchor when making major decisions. And I kind of bounce those 5 principles upon those questions. One of the questions I would throw to you is, if you knew you couldn't fail, would you do it? Would you do it? If you knew you couldn't fail, then what would stop you? Another question to maybe ask yourself is, what would your future self thank you for? I find these are helpful if you're lost in some kind of a direction, that by utilizing those two simple questions can help get you started. Like I said, I follow my 5 principles, which again are the foundation by which I make decisions on. A little bit along those lines, but is it good for me? Is it good for me now? Good for me later? Is it something I will appreciate in the future or something I will regret? And why would I regret that? See, those 5 principles get me thinking a little differently, and that's a decision anchor because you're always going back to it and it's always going to be true, much like a compass that's always going to direct you to true north. Same thing. You have an anchor, it's always steadfast. So when in doubt, jump back to those 3 to 5 questions or principles to base your decisions on. And you'll find you're making them far more quicker. And if you're good at memorization and you already have those 5 principles maybe on something on your phone or they're just ingrained in your brain now, then you're going to make much faster decisions because you're already going to bounce it off of those 5 principles or 3 to 5 values. And this is part of your decision anchor. By doing that, you'll find that you'll be making decisions much faster without confusion. Part 3, you're training the decision muscle. Now it becomes habitual. And your fast decisions, well, they're coming from the reps, not perfection. It's how many times have you just done this? Same practice. And like I said, once you remember your principles and values, you're always going to revert back to them. And they may slightly adjust a little bit because you're growing and learning, but nonetheless, you're going to find that you don't even think about it anymore. You just go to them, analyze your decision, and go right back to making the decision, and you're done. You know, part of training this muscle is kind of giving it some faith. I recommend practicing on, well, the low stake choices. Something that's maybe not too high of a value, start with there and making choices. This could be something as simple as what you choose to eat for dinner, or maybe how you're going to design a workout, or start to schedule a routine in your life to live a better life, to maybe find that extra hour in your life. Practice the low stake. This will certainly get you away from being willy nilly and just being like, whatever. You don't, once you start that with those small decisions, you'll find that the bigger decisions, you're kind of like, well, let it be. And then you'll find that you're disappointed when the, the results have occurred and you're like, man, I should have focused on that a little different, or I should have handled that a little better. Start with the low stakes choices and start to build that muscle from there. So when it comes to those major decisions, well, now you know how to handle them because you've already put in place your values, your principles, your goals, like workouts. What's your goal? You might find that you got to set it up and go to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, your home gym or the one down the street, and set that up and follow through and know what you're working with when you do get to the gym and not just decide, well, today's a light day or today's a heavy day. No, every day is a day you're putting forth your best. Same thing with routines. Start by just finding extra time in your day by maybe doing something a little different, a little quicker, And you'll find that 1 hour turns into 2 hours, and before you know it, you have 5 extra hours in your day because you didn't spend so much time making a decision on something else. You decided quickly and moved on. And you also, by making a decision and moving on for the best of yourself, right? For your goals and values, that now all of a sudden it's no longer a decision in your life and it's a reaction. And that reaction, again, is just something you do without even thinking about it. And guess what? That's happening in record time. So you're finding more time in your day because you're not sitting around thinking about things that you need to think you have to think about. Sorry about that. I found that personally, by making a fast decision to eat better and to exercise a little bit more, I will say at first, yeah, I had to think about it and I had to decide. When it came to what I was going to eat, I decided and I stuck to it. Now, yeah, it sounded a lot better to just order pizza or heat one up in the oven, but to actually prepare a good, nutritious meal with good food, well, that was a decision I made and I stuck to it. No matter what the lazy me thought would be better or would be tastier, simpler, but not as nutritious. And I found by making those quick decisions and just saying, look, this is what I'm going to have for dinner and I'm going to make it. And this is what I could have tomorrow and this is what I'm going to make. This is how I'm going to work out. And without changing, but growing and moving forward with those decisions, well, I found small wins in the process, but I also found that I lost 30 pounds by just making those small conscious decisions of what I was going to fix and was it going to be healthy. And then even a small decision like, well, am I going to snack? No. And I would tell myself I'm not going to snack. And I would say it's against my value because my value is I want to lose weight. I want to be healthier. So again, just something simple like that is small micro wins that are possible from a fast decision. So to wrap all this up, indecision is costly. You'll be surprised once you start making decisions how much time indecision actually did cost you. And remember, you don't need to be 100% sure. 80 is fine. Just be in motion. So utilize the tool, the 80% rule, the time box, the value filter, simplicity, and decision anchors. This will close the gap and allow you to make decisions in, well, to you, record time. And you'll find that you're not spending as much time considering things, but more time doing things. Feel free to download the Decision Speed Builder worksheet. Practice making one decision with speed today. Again, even a small decision. Stick with it. And if you'd like, tag at Ask Adam Live with the hashtag Decide and Drive. See, you don't need more time. You need more trust. Choose faster, live freer. This has been another tremendous episode of Ask Adam Live. Now let us go out and make it a great day.